In 1988, the head of the United States Working Anomalous Research Department, Ward, authorized the creation of large particle reactors on the premises of Site 700. Construction began in the spring of 1989 as part of Project Hephaestus. The reactors were given the designation of Asset 45, F1, and Asset 45, F2, with number denoting the order in which the buildings were constructed. Creation of the structures was temporarily halted whenever water needed to be redirected from a nearby lake, which would serve as a source for chamber coolant. Finished by the summer of 1992, the reactors were nicknamed Forges by on-site staff. Presented next is a short recording of Asset 45, F2, generating the first artificial chronos particles, charged with a warp factor of -1. A recording of Dr. Henderson, the lead scientist for the project, will be played next.
So what we're seeing here is actually quite fascinating. Normal matter, say a neutron, moves through time at a static rate, warping both space and time. What's happening here is that Nexus was able to calculate a method of separating these properties. Using highly concentrated fields of electromagnetic energy on the top and bottom accelerator podiums, we create an environment for particles to form. The energy is already there, but we need to provoke it. The top accelerator starts rotating the placed atoms in the opposite direction as the bottom one. So then, this creates a spatial shearing motion, warping space in opposite directions. At the atomic level, particles break apart and transmute to ouranos particles. This creates a strain on space-time, with the ambient energy being absorbed into these particles. So they have a warp factor of, let's say, 1/2, so they make space less dense and move faster. This then creates an imbalance between time and space, which we want to equalize. So we direct electromagnetic energy at the center of the reactor room to allow particles to form. These particles want to warp space, but they can't, because the ouranos particles already do that in their place. So these new particles make up for the lack of energy by gaining a negative temporal warp factor. If the ouranos particles have a value lower than 1, then the red chronos particles will have a negative warp factor, making them go backwards in time. This is what we see here. We create the chronos particles and they expand out in space, but they go backwards in time. So from our perspective, they come to a point and then cease to exist. We see them implode, but if we were moving backwards in time, then they would explode and scatter, but we see them gathering together. We think that ouranos particles will warp space to be smaller or bigger based on environmental factors, but Nexus will need to run more simulations. But so far, the results are very promising.